It's our public meeting as of December 18th, 2025. My name is Phil Dupler. I'm the Director of Planning, and we're going to go through a little program here to explain to you, give you some highlights about the Trinity Metro's Title VI program, and this has to do with a report that we make to the Federal Transit Administration once every 3 years. Evan Escher is going to walk you through that. Then after that, we're going to go through some service changes. LaMonica McLaughlin is going to step up and tell you about routes 2 and 4. And then also, we have some exciting news, particularly about the upcoming regional fare reduction coming in March that we've been working on with our partners at DART and DCTA. And then we'll close the meeting and give you the instructions of how you can comment on any of these programs and changes. So before we get started, just a little bit of safety briefing. So if there's any kind of emergency in here, so there's 2 ways out. Our primary way is the way you came in, up those stairs and out the front door. There's also an exit sign over here to your left at the kind of towards the back of the room, and that goes out towards the parking lot on the north side of the building. So if the danger is over there, we'll go that way, and if the danger is over here, we'll go that way. And I'll call 911. But let's all regroup outside, make sure everybody's okay if anything happens. But nothing's going to happen. I just want to make sure that you know where the exits are. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Evan Escher, who's going to walk you through some highlights from our 2026 Title VI report. Evan?
Thank you, Phil. As you mentioned, my name is Evan Escher. I'm a transit planner here with Trinity Metro, and today I'm going to be presenting about our Title VI program. Now, you might be wondering, what is Title VI? Based on the Civil Rights Act of 1964, we have to make sure that we're serving all of the area in an equitable manner, making sure that we're not discriminating against anyone based off of income class or racial or ethnicity groups. The Title VI program is something that we have to submit to the Federal Transit Administration every 3 years. So the last time we did it was 2023, and we're going to submit it again at the early part of 2026. Now, what is in the Title VI program? We talk about the representation on our boards and committees. We have a public participation plan. We have other plans and service standards, and then we have to assess said plans and service standards. There's also an equity analysis in the event that we have major service changes and fare changes, and we look at levels of customer satisfaction. First, here's looking at the representation of our current board of directors. There's 1 member appointed by the City Council and 3 other members appointed by the Tarrant County Commissioners. Next, we have our public participation plan. We have to have this in the event of major service changes or fare changes or long-term plans. And when we have any of those types of changes, we have to have a public meeting, such as one right now. And after the public meeting, the action then gets approved or disapproved by the board at their next board meeting. For the public meetings, notifications are sent out to the public 2 weeks in advance, at least 2 weeks in advance, and that's either by, or I should say, that's by multiple methods. We post it on our website, on social media. There's text alerts and email alerts. And once the public meeting has happened, then the public has up until 2 weeks prior to the next board meeting to submit their comments and there are multiple ways of submitting comments, and we'll talk about that towards the end of this presentation as well. Now, here in Tarrant County, we have a lot of people whose English is not their primary language, and as a result, we have language assistance. And in the event that there are passengers that don't speak English as their primary language and need help, whether it's understanding a timetable or trying to have a conversation with a bus operator, we have customer care and phone call services set up so that these people can be helped. All right, so the service standards. The service standards, as you see here, it's composed of many different factors that kind of determine our service. We'll go through each of these more in detail right after this, but the different factors are vehicle load, headways, on-time performance, service availability, service span, vehicle assignment, distribution of amenities, that's like shelters and benches, and key performance indicators. So just to set the scene, each of our routes is classified as either minority or non-minority and low income or non-low income. And what this means is if 1/3 or more of a route passes through census tracts that are classified as minority or low income based off of the percentage of people in said census tract that identifies either minority or low income, then that route would be considered a minority route or a low income route. And after analysis, 26 of our 31 routes are considered minority or low income. So the first factor that we'll go over, vehicle load. This refers to basically the capacity of a bus. Now most of our buses operate below seated capacity, so the vehicle load would be under 100%, but there are times, mostly on Route 89, where the capacity exceeds 100%, but that's only for at a couple times during the day, and it's for short trips. And we did find that vehicle load is higher on minority and low-income routes compared to non-minority and non-low-income routes. Next is headways. So we have our routes that either run every 15 minutes, every 30 minutes, or every 60 minutes. And these two tables here show the average headways for each type of route on weekday, Saturday, and Sunday. And you will see that minority and low-income routes have lower headways compared to non-minority and non-low-income routes. However, that is because our low-frequency routes, which are the routes that run every 60 minutes, are classified, most of them are classified as minority or low-income, so that kind of brings down the average for that part. That being said, the minority and low-income routes do have better on-time performance compared to non-minority and non-low-income routes. And the way that we define on-time performance is a route has to be no more than 8 minutes late past its posted time point on the schedule. Okay, next is service availability. Service availability refers to basically how close you are to transit. So we define service availability as within a 1/4 mile of a bus stop, 1/2 mile of a train station, or within an on-demand zone. You see here in the table, we have 1 million people in our service area, and over half of them live within what we consider walking distance of transit, 54.6%. About 2/3 of these people are considered minorities, and about 15% are considered low income. And both of those percentages, as you see here, is 66.7 and 15.1. Those are both greater than 61% and 12.4% respectively for the entire service area. And here's a map showing the like if you're within a quarter mile of a bus stop, and the green census tracts are the minority and yellow is non-minority, so it shows that most of our bus routes are within minority census tracts. And the same thing here, the yellow ones are the low-income census tracts, and you can see that most of our bus routes operate within that area. All right, next is service span. Service span refers to the amount of hours in a day that a bus route will operate. So if it starts operating at 6 a.m. and finishes operating at 8 p.m., that would be 14 hours, for example. So on average, our minority routes and low-income routes do have a longer service span than our non-minority and non-low-income routes. Next is vehicle assignment. With the exception of the blue line and the orange line, which have their own dedicated fleets, all of our bus routes, they're either 40-foot or 60-foot buses, and when they leave the yard in the morning, they go, the route that they are assigned for depends on multiple factors, such as the load factor, which we talked about earlier, fuel capacity, ridership. Now for transit amenities, this is in regards to shelters and benches. You see here, this table, we have a scoring system for how we determine if a bus stop should get a shelter or a bench. Now we do have a budget for implementing these shelters and benches. It does change from year to year. So we take the top ranked stops based on the scoring system, and we implement as many shelters and benches as we can based on what the budget allows for. And sometimes, as you see that there's that note there on the side, it says sometimes there are places where we want to put in a shelter or a bench, but unfortunately there's either a geographical constraint, like a hill, or there's underground utilities. So we can't put benches in everywhere. We'd like to, but sometimes we just can't. And you'll see here that most of our benches are within minority and low-income census tracts. Here's a map showing the benches within minority census tracts and low-income census tracts. And next, moving on to shelters. So here's a couple pictures of our newer shelters. You'll see that it's the same thing that we have with benches. Most of our shelters are within minority or low-income census tracts. And we also do have 3 types of shelters. We have, let me go back here. We have these shelters that are our newer shelters. We also have our green shelters. You've probably seen, we still have a lot of those around. Those are older ones, but we still have a lot of them throughout the system. And we do also have a few downtown shelters that are specifically for downtown. So it might be kind of hard to see on the map because it's kind of small, but the map does differentiate between the different types of shelters, and you can see where they are placed throughout our system. Next, we'll look at customer satisfaction. You can see here that most of our respondents, this was based on a survey from 2024, an on-board survey, so people that were riding the buses and trains actually took the survey. And you'll see that most of our respondents were either satisfied or very satisfied with our service. However, you do see that when it comes to on the right, the chart on the right that has low income, the low income respondents were generally more very dissatisfied or dissatisfied compared to non-low income respondents. And we believe that's just a factor of the fact that our low income riders, they have time constraints, or so if they miss a bus, their plans could be kind of thrown into a little bit of thrown out of whack a little bit, and that's why we believe the low-income respondents were generally a little bit more dissatisfied. All right, so for service changes, We used to have 2 service changes a year. Now we have 3, or at least going forward, we're going to have 3. One in February, one in May, and one in September. A lot goes into a service change. We have to budget for it. We have to plan for it. We have to talk with the union because they're the bus drivers. Then we have to get the new schedules printed and put on the buses and then published and put on the website. And in regards to public input, whenever there's a major service change or a fare increase, that's when we have public meetings like this, and we can get feedback from the public. Now, I did mention major service change because there is a difference between a major service change and a minor service change. A major service change is when there's a change of 25% or more of revenue miles for said route, or if there's 25% change in the size of an on-demand zone, or 25% change of the service span, or if there's a new route implemented or a new on-demand zone created, or if we're eliminating an on-demand zone or eliminating a route. And as we talked about earlier, for public feedback, first of all, the notice for the public meeting is posted at least 2 weeks in advance. It's posted on board vehicles, it's posted on the website, and once the public meeting takes place, the public has up until 2 weeks before the next board meeting to provide comments. And there are multiple ways to provide comments, either written comments, via email, via phone. And the board of directors will receive these comments and take them into consideration when approving or disapproving of the change. And we had, speaking of major service changes, we had 3 major service changes over the past 3 years. There was only one service change which identified a disparate impact towards minorities, and that was the elimination of Route 12. However, the justification was that it was a bottom-performing route, and ridership had been declining over the past 3 to 4 years, and there are multiple alternatives for passengers looking to take that route. And we also had one fare change that was last year, and it was a fare decrease. And the analysis showed that it was a benefit towards minority and low-income passengers. And we had 33 public meetings at 13 different locations over the last 3 years. We also, the 6 open houses that you see there, those were kind of interactive workshops, and we had those at 6 different locations. The 2 Title VI programs, well, I guess that one's included, but the one meeting that we had, that was for the 2023 program that would have been in January or February of 2023. And when we had our service change meetings, they were either held over at Central Station or we had them dispersed throughout the service area. And lastly, our key performance indicators. So you see here, for the previous fiscal year, we had an average of 0.83 passengers per mile, just less than 10 passengers per hour, and an average subsidy of $8.30. The threshold that you see on the right, that's like our threshold to determine if a route is performing well or not. So as long as it has greater than 0.34 passengers per mile, greater than 5.05 passengers per hour, and an average subsidy of less than $17.22. If a route has a KPI that's outside of those thresholds, then that means we need to reevaluate it and look for potential changes. And you see here those 9 routes listed, they had 1 or more KPI that was outside of those thresholds. And 4 of those 9 routes had 2 or more KPIs that were outside of those thresholds. And the ones that are bolded that you see there, Those 6 routes are classified as either minority or low income. And in summary, based on our evaluation, our minority and low-income populations are served fairly. And if you do want to submit comments or if you have questions, you can submit them either here in person, or you can send an email to the email address that's listed on the screen, or you can write a comment and mail it in with the address and heading as you see there on the screen. And you have until the end of the day on Sunday, January 4th, because the next board meeting will be on January 20th. That's a Tuesday. It's the day after Martin Luther King Jr. Day. That'll be 3 p.m. right here. And also there's a QR code there. If you have a phone, you can scan it, and that will send you to our website. Specifically, it'll have the page where the Title VI report will be posted. And now I will hand it over to LaMonica, and she will talk about the upcoming service changes for February.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. My name is LaMonica McLaughlin. I'm a service planner here with Trinity Metro. And I want to go over a few service changes that we are proposing. So when we start service changes, when we start the review for service changes, our service planning, it often starts with customer service feedback. And the customer service team, they receive a lot of calls and they receive emails. They let the planning department know if there's problems or requests that we need to look into. And one of the most critical statistics that they look at is, one of the most critical statistics that we look at is ridership counts. And we use the boarding and alighting counts to understand where the demand is highest and the lowest. We also monitor route performance to make sure that we're able to stay on time. Sometimes when you're out there riding, you may see the envoys or different consultant teams in blue vests. And what they're doing is they're talking to customers on the platforms and on board the vehicles, and they're conducting surveys and interviews. And from the surveys, that's what we learn. What we need to look at. We also find out where our passengers are riding to and where they're riding from. And all that information is used to assess changes that we make throughout the system. For our service changes, as Evan mentioned, we have service changes throughout the year, and for major service changes, it's anything that affects our fixed route, our on-demand, and our rail, and it's a change of 25% or more. And that's for the total operating miles, that's for the route length and the span of service. It's also if there's an elimination of a rail line, a route line, or a zone, or the establishment of a new rail line, route line, or zone. For this service change, what we're proposing is an adjustment to 2 routes. And that is for Route 4, it's to establish a better connectivity and a more direct route between Southwest Fort Worth and the Cultural District. Route 4 did trigger a major service change because it is an increase of 25% of the miles or more. For Route 2, we're improving the connectivity for riders transferring from TexRail to Route 2. So in 2001, during our comprehensive analysis of the ABC system redesign, there was an in-depth study conducted of the riders and the destination trends. And what it revealed is almost 1/3 of our passengers that were using Route 4 was continuing on westward. And based on the findings, there was a recommendation to extend Route 4 westbound along Rosedale and Montgomery to the Cultural District and the West 7th area. However, the change did not make it into the system redesign due to budget limitations. There was also a review of ridership, and currently Route 4 is not supporting a 15-minute level of frequency. So what we're also proposing to adjust the service from 15 minutes to a 30-minute schedule on weekdays. This will improve the effectiveness of the route and will allocate a portion of those savings to extend that route, again, along Rosedale over to the district, over to the Cultural District. By doing so, you'll improve the service, the coverage, and it attracts more riders. So again, with our proposed Route 4 change, it was proposed to take place on February 1st. We are again, we would allocate some of that savings in extending that route. It will travel from the current point at Rosedale and 8th along to Montgomery with direct access to the Dickies Arena. There'll also be stops strategically placed near the Museums of Science and History and the Modern Art Museum, and that enhances the cultural access for both the residents and the visitors exploring the area. It will also still connect to the future Texrail station, but until that's here, we will travel straight down Rosedale. Also, you'll be able to connect to the 2 and the 52 at Camp Bowie and University. And you'll also be able to transfer over to Route 53 as well. So the improvements will foster a better connectivity. It will support local businesses and just enhance the community. For Route 2, normally Route 2 is scheduled to depart Fort Worth Central Station every 15 minutes between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. But what we're finding is at the top and the bottom of the hour, transferring to Texrail is a little difficult. So for the top and the bottom of every hour, what we're going to do is we're adjusting that schedule by 3 minutes. So instead of leaving, for example, at 12 o'clock, it will be 12:03. And that allows for a more streamlined transfer over to Texrail between Texrail and the Route 2. There was also mention of the fare changes. So in conjunction with DART, there's a proposal for fare changes to be effective on March 1st. With those fare changes, currently the TRE one-way is only sold by DART. Trinity Metro will also sell that TRE one-way. The day pass will be reduced from, the regional day pass will be reduced from $12 to $9. The monthly pass, currently there is no reduced pass offered, and they will have a reduced monthly pass for $96, and the annual pass will be eliminated. So as far as changes for our systems, that's what we have. And as Evan mentioned, there is a public hearing on January 20th here in the boardroom at 3 p.m. If you would like to submit comments for anything you've heard, please do so by January 4th, at the end of the day on Sunday, January 4th. There's a QR code. We have comment cards in the back. And also there is a website if you would like to send your comments. So that is what we have. Is there any questions for anything you guys heard here today? No questions, comments? Phil?
All right. Well, thank y'all for coming.
So
We
thank
can
you
hang
so
around
much.
for a few minutes if you want to ask us individually.
We get to say anything on the floor?
That was yes, go
Yes.
ahead.
Do you have a question?
Oh, I thought you just right here. Yeah, to start with for 8 months. Majority of the city buses, TM, don't have schedules. And over half the buses, they got the busted racks. They're quarter-inch plexiglass, and they're broke, and they can't put schedules in the racks. And the supervisor, everybody, just do as you want, don't bother this type attitude, okay? Nothing getting done, nobody's doing their job. And the bus drivers are just, they're letting them ride, you know? You don't have to put schedules on your bus anymore when you come on duty, you know? That's their number one duty, when they get on shift. Make sure they got bus routes for their route, not routes over there where they don't go, you know?
Yeah.
So, to solve that, all they gotta have is the backing. They have the backing plexiglass. Just have that by 3/4 plexiglass cut out, square, and then 3/4 plexiglass going into it and screw it in the back, wood screws. But put a drop of super glue on the end of the wood screws and screw it in so the 3/4 plexiglass will allow it to screw in, okay? And it won't come apart. And they put the plexiglass across the front, which is, about 4 inches by 4 inches on each slot. Just wood screw that in, but put super glue on the tip of the screw that in. It will never break, no matter how hard people pull on it. Okay? That's how you make fish aquariums, don't make it. But nobody's doing that. They're not reporting that. They're just letting it go. And nobody knows when the next bus is going to get there. Even the bus that they're getting on, because there's no schedules, the bus stops, even the ones with the shelter, they have a sign saying, you have a problem, call this number, or criminal trespass, or no watering. They can paint on the corner of the sign the time of departure of this bus, so they at least know that much, when they get off this bus, transfer to that bus route. And there's a lot of simple solutions, but this entire TM, it's just attitude of do nothing type atmosphere. Don't bother us. Do what you want type attitude and behavior on the workplace. I've never seen nothing like it. I thought the G, when it had it before TM, was bad. This one made it worse. It's worse. I've been riding the bus 21 years off and on. And then you got the subcontract with the foreign country, and the TM, again, it was the TM president, CEO, the TM chairman, board chairman, and the board members on that other, as well as this, because they signed and dated the contract, approved it, they go through their process. But this foreign country taking the 45 bus off north of the stockyards over a year ago, last September, before last. And had a foreign country do it like Lyft. But, you put the corner, they say, instead of the address, because it's cheaper that way, okay. But the foreign country pays their drivers grossly underpaid and no benefits. They can't keep drivers. And north of the stockyards, they always got one driver, sometimes no drivers. Some mornings you got people can't even get to college. It's so unreliable, they quit using them. That's called rider demand. They get late to class. You schedule a ride, an hour and a half later, they'll show up.
Well, thank you for
But
those.
the
I'm sorry.
solution to that is resolve it, just partly resolve it, put the 45 bus back on its route. So, I mean, you resolve the students now getting to school on time, you know, those that live near it. Because, I mean, I don't like using rider demand because they're from a country, there's no rights. They're from Rwanda, Nigeria, India, and they're communist countries. And like this one, he just sits behind a car that's stalled and got his lights flashing because he didn't want to drive anymore. You know, we're sitting in the back. And then if they want to not drive for the next 4 hours, they call their dispatcher, which is a foreign country, to fix the app. Just have it come up to me, callers, call back later, too much request right now, you know, schedule. And it goes on like that till he tells the dispatcher, okay, lift it, I'll go back to where I'm ready. You know, and they get paid just watching TV, sitting down there at the north side the north side Texas Rail Station parking lot in the far corner. And there's employees of the TM that some of them do the rider requests. I see the van, and this one foreigner called them to pick me up saying I was handicapped. All right? He didn't want to pick me up. She came pick me up and said, you're not handicapped. But she noticed driving by that Texas Road, that guy had been sitting there all day doing nothing. But that's how these foreigners, they don't understand rights. They're not disrespected, they don't understand. They raised in the country, no rights. What they're doing is legal in their country, they don't understand it. You gotta do it differently on this soil.
Okay, well, thank you.
So much.
Yes.
My name is Tara Crawford, I'm the Vice President of Planning. I actually just wrote down a lot of your comments, and I'm going to send on to our.
Makes no transportation at all.
And our own living. So I want to thank you for that, for really the living that effect. I will
But
say
there's
that
one other,
we have.
there's one other, there's one other, it's where they're discriminating and treating them unequally to the law of those living in those stockyards as a transportation. All the other customers, east, west, and south. Because, for example, I just learned today by some employees on the bus of the TM, told me there's a meeting at 12. I didn't know that. I thought it was only at 6. But if I take the rider men to the stockyards and take the bus there, I'm corporally punished and financially to have to buy a taxi to get back from the residents, from the stockyards, because they quit driving at 6. You know, there's whoever's in there paying it, and they don't get paid overtime, so they allow a lot of time there because they got to refill the van before they go park it, turn it back into the TM.
Well, if you ever see any of the drivers that are just sitting and that don't appear to be doing anything, please call our customer service and report them. Because nothing will happen unless somebody reports them.
They lie to you.
No, our customer service won't.
Down because they ain't gonna right. I mean, if they lie to you, they're 9 times out of 10, they ain't gonna do what they say, you know.
No, our customer service, they're pretty reliable.
I had a
They'll let us know.
tell me one time that when I told her the bus passed me up, she said, well, because it didn't have brakes. I said, it didn't have brakes, why is it driving?
Excuse me, sir. Let's go talk afterwards, and then we can have the.
No, the president likes it like this, the board likes it like this because they don't want to be here. They want to watch video, and you're just trying to hush it up for them.
I am not, but I definitely like to talk afterwards, so I.
I'm no fool, man. I mean, I know what's going on.
Thank
You
you.
know why people don't show up now, don't you? They know it's getting.
Y'all go ahead, I'll talk.
Okay, thank you.
On the back,